Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's WISE webinar. We'll just give it a couple of minutes before we start to let people come in, and then we'll get going for today's very exciting session. Thank you so much for joining today's session. I hope you enjoy it. Open now. So we'll get moving through the slides, as we'll just start off with some housekeeping. So just to introduce myself, I'm going to be your WISE host for today's webinar. I'm Catherine Watson. I am Head of Product and Service Delivery at WISE, and I've been here for almost 6 years, and it's my biggest passion. I love my job. So some housekeeping for today. So today's webinar will be recorded and we will be sharing it after the event. So if you want to watch it back or if you want to share it with your colleagues, you are more than welcome to do that. Your sound and video will be restricted during the presentations, so you won't be able to talk or show us your faces, but we'll be listening to the wonderful Louise anyway. So if you do have any practical questions regarding your sound or video, please pop them in the chat and a member of the WISE team will get back to you on that one. You will be able to ask written questions for Louise as we go through the session, and there will be hopefully time for a quick Q&A at the end, fingers crossed. But otherwise, we'll be able to give your questions to Louise directly and we can get back to you with the answers after the session. But please, throughout today's webinar, use reactions, share in the comments, put some things in the chat, get really involved and get really engaged with today's session. So just a quick note on accessibility. You can enable live captions through Teams webinar. So if you'd like to do that, please go to meeting controls at the top of the screen. And if you clicked more, then language and speech, you can turn on the live captions for today's session. So if you'd like to do that, that's how you do it. Now, before anything more, I would like to introduce you to the wonderful Louise, who's going to be delivering today's session on imposter syndrome. So thank you very much, Louise.
Wow, what a build up. What a build up. Great to see so many, well, I say see so many people, see so many names up there. So I'm going to try and share my screen. Do bear with me. I'm not great with IT, so hopefully you can all see the screen up there. So a little bit about me. Hi, welcome to today. My name's Louise Scambler, and I'm very proud when I say this. I'm one of the founding directors of the Resilience Development Company. We deal in everything to do with resilience, from one-on-one coaching all the way through to full-year programs and our 8-week program that we deliver to organisations, individuals. Largest ones we've been through with the NHS. We deal with government, different organisations and corporations. But my main passion, I would say, would be my one-on-one coaching, where I do specialise in menopause, confidence, imposter syndrome, all that sort of thing. So as you can see, I'm a woman of a certain age. Let me just put it that way. And yes, I have suffered with imposter syndrome, amongst many other things. So that's what we're going to be looking at all the way through today. We slightly differ from other companies where we will be giving you easy to use, very simple, practical skills that you can go away, take it straight away, use on yourself, but also transfer to other people. Don't be put off by the simplicity. These skills, we've taken vast, massive theories from cognitive behavioural therapy, neuroscience and leadership, made them very easy to understand. And then we've given you a skill so that you can go out and use it. And I think that's what makes us just that little bit different. But today is all around this. It says imposter syndrome. It stems from confidence. And it's something that, especially if you are going through the menopause, it gets heightened. So I will highlight that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can get this at any sort of stage of your life. And imposter syndrome, it's that condition or feeling of being anxious and not experiencing success internally, really, for yourself. You know, you can be really high performing in external and objective ways, but sometimes when it comes down to just your thinking, and that's what we're going to look at today, it makes you feel like a fraud, or it makes you feel that little bit phony and you doubt your abilities. And I don't know if many of you have suffered from this, but obviously whack it into the chat function. I can't look at the chat function when I'm presenting because I can't do two things at once. So I'm going to leave that to the lovely ladies on the other end. But what we're going to be looking at today is we're going to be looking at understanding how our brain leads us to feel like an imposter. We're going to focus in on some skills to help you challenge that thinking. And that's what it's mainly going to be about, just giving you skills to maybe able to challenge it and recognize when it's happening. This one is so important to me. Step number 3, why it's important to listen to what I call me FM, that internal chat, that conversation that's continuously going on in your head. And if anything like me, it's random. It goes off in all different areas. And to really understand that you're not alone. You really are not alone. So today we'll run very, very quick. I do go fast because I've got 9 skills that I want to get out to you. You will be having some extra resources. I'll go through those at the end that will be emailed to you. And as I said, I'm hoping that there'll be time for any Q&As at the end. But what often happens is people will pop a question up, and as I'm going through the rest of the slides, sometimes it gets answered. So I'll just leave those to the end. So I hope that's okay with everybody. So we're going to start off with, I say to people what's happening. I talk about these lovely antelope, deer, whatever you want to call them. I call them Bert and Ernie because I know them so well. And I would say to people, do you think that they're relaxed or do you think that they're alert? And usually people turn around and go, they're alert. Their ears are up, their heads are up. It's an alertness. This is what happens to us as human beings. We will become alert. We detect threat. Threat is very, very individual to each and every one of us. What threatens me might not threaten you. But what happens is it gets detected in one of the oldest parts of your brain, your amygdala. It's a caveman response that is there. And we get ignited instantly, as you can see with these lovely Bert and Ernie, heads have gone up. What's most probably happened, the most we've been having like a little bit of brunch. They've been having a chew on the grass and they've detected a threat. Yeah, they've seen a shadow, they've heard a twig, and instantly the head goes up. And what happens with us as human beings when we detect a threat that's personal to us, we get ready to do one of the 2 Fs, fight or flight. Yeah, everyone's heard of the fight or flight. And in order for your brain to get your body ready to either have a fight or to run and get the hell out of Dodge, it does a few things to your body. It actually does a few physical things to your body. So it releases a chemical. Yeah, it releases lots of them, lots of different ones. You've got adrenaline, all sorts of things. But the one that we're going to focus in on is called cortisol. It's your stress chemical. And instantly what cortisol does when it's in your blood system is it shuts off your digestion. You don't need to be digesting that piece of toast or that yogurt that you've just had. And it does that by removing the blood from your stomach. So instantly you get that feeling, or it flips and it goes empty, that horrible feeling that you get. That's always great. You detect a threat, your stomach feels funny. You can get upset stomachs as well. We won't go into that too much. And then what it does is it takes that excess blood and it pumps it to your extremities. Majority of it go to your legs to give you the sturdiness to have the fight or that extra boost to run. And what happens then is your legs will start to feel a little bit funny. Yeah, they'll go wobbly, they can go like jelly, they can go very solid. Yeah, it just doesn't feel quite right. Then cortisol, what it does is it switches off near enough all of your immune system just for that time being. You don't need to be fighting that bug or that virus or anything else that's going on in your body. So it just has an impact on your immune system. So continuous stress can lead you to pick up bugs and viruses a lot easier. Yeah. So it does all that. It then, this is the hard thing for all of us, and this is the thing that I'm really going to focus in on. When cortisol is in your system, it shuts down 40% of your decision-making part of your brain. In other words, you sort of like get a frontal lobotomy. You can't think clearly. You can't think creatively. You can't think your way out of situations. So it does all those things for you. It also stops and makes it very difficult for one other chemical to be released into your body. And that other chemical is called oxytocin. That's your love and your trust chemical. So when you're stressed, not only have you got all that going on, you don't feel great, you can't think clearly, but it is physically harder to like people. And for me, that was a massive light bulb moment. I was like, yeah, I've got it. Yeah, that's why I can often come home from work. Perhaps I haven't got rid of the cortisol. I walk through the door. Yeah. And I have to say things to my husband like, I love you, but I don't like you at the moment. Yeah, that's what happens. So I've highlighted for you what cortisol does. When we're discussing it around the idea of imposter syndrome, and you often associate that very, very much with women that are going through the menopause. As I said, it's not all about that. Your cortisol, when you are going through the menopause, is heightened. Your fight or flight is absolutely off the radar. So you can continuously get these feelings continuously. So it shuts off your immune system. It stops your digestion. Your legs feel funny. Your stomach feels funny. Yeah, you can pick bugs up a lot easier. Yeah, and you cannot think very clearly. Why am I highlighting this to you? I'm highlighting this to you because the biggest contributor to us releasing cortisol in our blood, in our bodies, we do all on our own. We don't need anybody else. We just do it to ourselves right here in our brains. And it's a thing that's called rumination. And I'm sure that you've all heard of it. For those of you that haven't, yeah, rumination by textbook is what the cows do to the grass. They chew it over and 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 over again. We're talking about it from a psychological perspective. We're talking about getting hold of a thought, and it goes round and 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 round your head. Yeah. Now, it's only rumination. It's only bad for you when you attach a negative emotion to it. In other words, it doesn't feel great to think about it. If you're reflecting back over the past and going, that was really great and that's brilliant and I really enjoyed that reflection, we need that. That's brilliant. If you're going, oh, I could do this and I could do that, and oh, let me go ahead and think about this, that's future planning. That's great. It's only rumination when it just sticks and it gets a negative emotion attached to it. All of a sudden, your brain is alerted. It thinks it's real. Yeah, boom, cortisol comes out. And then what happens? 40% of that decision maker part of your brain goes down. You can't think your way out of it. It just goes round and round. I was doing this actually with a group of people the other day, and there was somebody very young in the room, and they said to me, "What's a record?" Because I've got a record player up there. And I went, it's like an old-fashioned CD. And they went, "What's a CD?" And I thought, right, you can get out of the room now. But that's what it's like. That's why we've got a record player up there. It just goes round and round and round continuously with, yeah, this cortisol being released into your body. Now, out of 24 hours, I would usually ask you, which part of 24 hours do you think is the worst time for rumination? But I'm just going to go straight in and tell you, and I expect lots of you will be screaming or even typing it into the chat function now. Bedtime, at night. That's when rumination really, really kicks in. It can kick in during the day, but it really becomes a lot worse at night. Yeah, you get into bed, you've had an exhausting day, you pull that duvet up and you go, oh, I'm going to have really good bub-eyes. And all of a sudden your brain goes, no, you're not. Let's think about all that stuff. And it goes round and round and round. Now, rumination is something that everybody does. Even those people that will say that they don't ruminate, they do. It's a perfectly natural human response. Yeah, so that's the first thing I would like to tell you. You're not alone, and it's perfectly normal. It's heightened, yeah, with our confidence when it gets knocked. It's heightened with menopause. It's heightened with imposter syndrome. But that rumination goes round and round and round our heads. Nighttime, yeah, if you get up in the night, like I am, a woman of a certain age, need to get up for that comfort break. I get back into bed and it starts going. Now, you can ruminate on absolutely anything from something very, very small through to something big. And I always say I'll challenge anybody to a rumination off because by nature, I am a huge ruminator. I can ruminate on my best friend not putting a kiss on the end of their text, and they usually do. And instantly I start going, I wonder what I've done, wonder what I've upset. Oh my goodness, and it goes round and round my head, all the way through to paying bills, health, career, you name it. I can ruminate on it. Now the skill, what we're going to start saying to you here is this is going to be the first one of your skills. And this is a huge part of it. We turn around and say to people, recognize when you are ruminating. I have physical signs when I start to ruminate. I get a sore jaw. Why? Because I clench my teeth and I grind them, much to my dentist's horror. Yeah. And I get this sore jaw. Sore shoulders is quite a normal one because we clench up. I also do something else that's really a bit weird, and we all have different traits. But if I'm sat down in the office and I start to ruminate, or any time during the day, I rub my knees with my hands. Yeah. So I can tell as soon as I'm ruminating. So the idea is to recognize it and then name it. Doesn't matter if you can't remember the word rumination. Call it bibbity bobbity boo. It doesn't matter. Just recognize it. Because as soon as you recognize that you're doing it, you can then name it, you can claim it, and then we can help you to tame it. So here's your first skill. Recognize rumination for what it is. Learn to spot when you're playing that same thought over and over again in your head and attaching that negative emotion to it. Because that rumination, if you tune in to what's going on in your head, yeah, and start to listen to what it is, especially when you're sort of suffering with a lack of confidence or anything like that, it will be derogative. It will be very, very negative for you. So recognize that you're doing it. Know you're not on your own. Know it's perfectly normal response for us as human beings to do it, but give it a name. Start to spot when other people are doing it. I can spot people ruminating a mile away. And I often go to them, you're ruminating? Or is that thought going round and round and round your head? And they go, yeah. Just start to spot when you're doing it. As soon as you spot that you are ruminating, you can then go in to start helping yourself to get out of it. And the first skill that we'll tell you to do, you've spotted your ruminating, yeah, is to turn around and fast forward it. I would say it's one of the simplest skills that we give to people. It's one of the most effective. Yeah. What happens is when you are ruminating, you will be on slight autopilot. That's why you sort of ruminate late at night or when your brain is idle. Yeah, it hasn't got anything to fill it up, and all of a sudden it starts off on all these things. I tend to ruminate quite a lot when I'm in the car. Sometimes I'm driving along, much to my husband's horror, and I'll get somewhere, I'll get to traffic lights and I'll go, where am I going? Don't remember that past bit of the road. What's going on? Yeah, it's sort of like coming back in. So when you're on autopilot, this rumination will start kicking in. And we say to people, you need to start getting yourself back into the moment, and you need to start occupying your brain and putting things back into perspective. And it's very simple. Detect your ruminating, zoom in on what you're ruminating on, and then turn around and go, will this really matter in a week, a month, or a year's time? I ruminate on such small things. I can go, will this really matter in an hour, this afternoon, or tomorrow? Because here's the thing. 90% of the time, the answer is no, it won't matter. If the answer is yes, when we do our full program, we give you other strategies and skills to be able to deal with it. But you'll be amazed how many things you just turn around and go, no, it's not going to matter in a week, a month, or a year's time. As soon as you do that, you've put it back into perspective. You've got your brain to start working, and it's now starting to thinking, and you're back into the present. So just go, will this matter a week, a month, or a year's time? As soon as the answer is no, I'm going to ask you to do this. I'm going to ask you if you can drop the peanut. And no, I haven't gone mad. There's a reason we've got peanuts on the screen. I'm going to tell you a little story about how monkeys get caught in the jungle. Okay, no monkeys were hurt in the making of this story, I can assure you. And you'll also get a very, very cheesy impression of a monkey from me in a minute. But the monkey catcher goes into the jungle. Yeah, he's got a cage just big enough for the monkey he wants to catch. There's no bottom to the cage, but there's a little hole just big enough for the monkey's hand to go in on the side. There's loads of food around the jungle, loads and loads of it. But what he does, he just clears a little patch on the floor, gets a big juicy peanut, puts it on the floor and pops the cage over the top, and he just steps back and he waits. Now, monkeys are really, really curious. The monkey comes along and he goes, oh, peanut. Oh, I love the look of that peanut. That peanut looks lovely. I want that peanut. Ignores all the other food that's around in the jungle. Just focuses in on this one peanut. And he gets his little hand and he puts it into the cage and he grabs hold of that peanut. Now, with his hand in a fist and the peanut inside the fist. It's too big to come out the side of the cage, but he tries. He keeps on pulling and pulling, and all his focus is going into this one peanut, just this one thing, focusing in on it, really concentrating on this one thing, trying to get his peanut out of this cage, but he can't. And the monkey catcher will come up behind him, pick him up and take him off, because all his focus is on the peanut. So the idea is, we say to people, yeah, drop the peanut, let it go. If you imagine the peanut as this thing that you're ruminating on, and all the other food is all the other stuff that you've got to get done, social events, projects, tasks, yeah, you will be ignoring them. You'll be focusing in on this one thing, this one bit of rumination, and you'll be amazed how many peanuts you can drop, how many peanuts your teams can drop, how many peanuts you can turn around and look in organizations, how many of those can they drop? Let them go, move on and deal with all the other stuff that you need to deal with. So we just say, don't be a monkey. Don't get caught. If that rumination is about something somebody's done to you, I can assure you they're not awake at night thinking about it. If it's about a task that you got to do, I'm sure that nobody else even doubts that you can do it. Yeah, but what happens is all your focus will go into that one thing. That rumination kicks round and round and round. So we just turn around and go, drop the peanut. Learn to let things go by asking yourself, can I drop this peanut? Can I move on? Can I look at all the other things that I've got to do, all the other tasks I've got to do? So don't be a monkey. What also can then happen is, you've got this rumination, this thing that you're thinking about. It's going round and round your head. You've acknowledged it. You've got it there. Yeah. What happens also is we do this. We can start catastrophizing. If we don't nip it in the bud, if we don't let go of the peanut, this is what starts eking in. And I can tell you from personal experience, I love a bit of catastrophizing. Yeah, but it's not good for me. All I end up in is a little ball of cortisol. Yeah, because catastrophizing is just looking for the worst thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at 3 questions that you can ask yourself, yeah, to gain perspective, and then make sure that you're planning. In other words, you're gaining some control to move forward. So you're planning for the most likely. And it literally goes, what's the worst thing that can happen? What's the best outcome? What is the most likely? But here's the key with catastrophizing when you're using this skill. It's not good enough to go, oh, this will happen. You have to keep exaggerating and blowing it into out of proportion thinking so that it gets to the absolute worst case that can happen. You have to keep saying, and then what? And then what? And then what? So I'm going to give you a quick example. You can try and work out if it's a true story or not, but I'm sure that you'll be able to. Picture the scene. It was Christmas. It was about 2 years ago. Yeah, my old iPhone had packed up eventually, and my husband got me a new one. I had my in-laws over. I'd literally just peeled that really satisfying bit of cellophane off it, and I needed to go for a quick comfort break, quick wee. So I whacked it into my back pocket of my jeans. I ran down the hall, got into the toilet, pulled my jeans down. That's the sound of the phone going down the toilet. And I stood there, yeah, like a startled rabbit in headlights. And then I went, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? Yeah. And I literally went, okay, worst thing that can happen. I put my hand down the toilet and I get a slight electric shock. Okay, what happens then? Then what? I fly back across the room and I whack my head on the side of the bath. Okay, and then what happens? I crack my head open, I go unconscious. Okay, then what happens? As you go down, you've kicked the U-bend on the toilet and all the water's coming over and there's a backlog of sewage and it's coming out everywhere. Okay, and then what? It seeps into the side of the walls and it goes down and it's an old house and the ceiling collapses. Okay, and then what? My landlord hears and it's across the way. He comes across and goes, oh my goodness, your insurance hasn't been paid. And then what? The room gets contaminated, the whole house gets contaminated, we have to leave. And then what? Well, it's Christmas time and there's nowhere to live, so we all have to sit in the car. There's 5 of us and 2 dogs. Okay, and then what? And then my head gets infected, I get septicemia, and then I die. That's the worst thing that can happen. And what happens is your brain goes, that ain't gonna happen. You've taken the rumination to every single level, all the way through. So the worst thing always ends up with, and then I die. And your brain goes, that's not going to happen. Then you can flip it the other way and go, what's the best outcome? I don't know. I pick the phone up. They're near enough waterproof nowadays. As I wipe it, it's facial recognize, and I open the phone up and my hands slip across the screen. Okay, and then what? I dial a mysterious number, and then what? Ryan Reynolds picks up the phone. Oh, I love that man. And he goes, you're the 1,000th caller, you've won the competition. And then what? He invites me and all my family and all my work colleagues, and we go over to America. And then what? I get to meet Oprah Winfrey at a Hollywood party, and she loves my resilient stuff. And then what? Gives me a great show, and I produce it for the whole world, and everybody lives happily ever after. My brain goes, that'd be really nice, but that ain't going to happen. Then I go, what's the most likely? Yeah, they're near enough waterproof now, Lou. Pick it up. Yeah. You've got it in your hand. Go and tell David. David's my husband. He's in IT. Yeah, go and put it in rice. Go and put it in cat litter. It's either going to work or it's not, but move now. Do it. Go and do it. Yeah, you start to calm. There's nowhere for your rumination to go. There's nowhere for the daydreaming. What happens is you stretch the brain to both extreme levels, and then it goes, I'm happy to settle in the middle. I'm happy to go and do it. And it's literally, you need to focus on the most likely, because the majority of the time, the reality of the situation is never as bad as you think it's going to be. So by using this skill, you'll begin to lower that stress. You'll start to gain perspective, yeah, and move away from that rumination and that catastrophic thinking. The best tip I can give you, use a little bit of humor with it. Yeah, humor lightens a lot of things. It calms the brain down as well. Great to use. I don't know how many of you will have kids. Yeah, great to use on kids. Yeah, instantly they go into catastrophic thinking, but great just to use on yourself or to on other people around. You start to see they're ruminating. They'll tell you what they're ruminating. You go, what's the worst thing that can happen? And then what? And then what? And then what? And before you know it, it is quite comical. And then the best, okay, what's the most likely? Right, go and plan it. Go and do it. It's the fourth skill. Gain perspective by asking yourself these three key questions, yeah, and nip that rumination down in the bud. Because rumination, when cortisol is in your bloodstream, yeah, when you're just focusing on that one bad thing or that thing that's going round and round your brain, it will lower your confidence. You'll start to doubt yourself. You start to get challenging. You know, there's this really bad chat that's going on in your head. It's all about nipping it. It's all about making sure that you can move forward and gaining that perspective that little bit more. Yeah. The next skill, I told you we go fast. The next skill, as directors, we all brought different skills in. We all had different things that we were absolutely, you know, this is going in. This one comes from John, my business partner, who used to be ex-Special Forces. And I always think if it's good enough for John when he was out on his tactical excursions, then it's good enough for me when I think I've sent the wrong name out on an email. And it's called tactical breath. And breathing is really embedded in well-being, in absolutely everything that we look at, you know, from mindfulness and yoga and all that great stuff. But there's lots of different sort of formats of it. Tactical breath goes in a format of in through your nose for the count of 4, feeling your stomach rise. Then you hold that breath for 7, and then you breathe out of your mouth for the count of 8. And you need to do it 2 or 3 times. Why is this one so special? A, it's an in the moment skill. You can use it straight away. I use the skill the whole time. And the reason being, it turns off your stress response. It's like turning the cortisol tap off. Yeah. And it gives your brain that chance to catch up, that 40% that's been shut down. Yeah, 40% comes down. It gives you that time to actually catch up. Yeah, and just turn that cortisol off. I would really recommend that you have a go at trying it, see how it goes. If everyone wants to quickly do one with me, I can't see the chat function, but hopefully Catherine's looking at it. I'm going to ask you to do, I'm going to count you through with one, then I'm going to ask you to do one on your own, and then just pop it in the chat function, how it's making you feel, how it's actually making you feel. So here we go. In through your nose for the count of 4, feel your stomach, not your chest, feel your stomach rise. Then hold for 7 and out for 8. So here we go. In through your nose. Hold. And out. I want to just have one more go and then just let me know how it feels. In through your nose for 4. hold for 7, and out of your mouth for 8. Yeah. Usual response that I get from people is it's very relaxing. It sometimes makes me feel quite sleepy. Yeah, it really calming me down. They did a survey with people that had suffered from insomnia, and they got them to take tactical breaths, and they challenged them for 20 minutes of it. Nobody got past 20 minutes without some form. I'm not saying they all went bobos for 12 hours, but some form, yeah, of respite from it. They just managed to get something. So if you do wake in the night with your rumination, if you have been catastrophizing, yeah, if your brain, 40% of your brain's down and you can feel it, do a quick tactical breath. Do a couple of those. I do them all through the day. If I'm doing a spreadsheet or something gets too much, or I go, I can't do this, I can't get this right, or the algorithms aren't going right, I step away, I take a tactical breath, and then I go back. My biggest thing for tactical breath, I do it before I respond to people, and I'm sure you all know what I mean by that. Yeah, if I've been sort of heightened with my cortisol, yeah, I've detected a threat, before I speak back to that person, I do a very subtle one. And if you can't do the 4, 7, 8, you can lower it to 3, 6, 7. Yeah, and just breathe in, breathe, let that brain catch up, let the cortisol go down, and then respond to people. I think it makes me a little bit of a nicer person sometimes, but that's a great way. If you're starting to feel it's all too much for you, take that tactical breath. You start to detect that you're ruminating, take the tactical breath. Yeah, just allow for that cortisol to be switched off a little bit. But you can do it whenever you feel it. Take 2 or 3 of them at any point. I mean, before presentations, I even did one this morning when I got on, and I found that Teams had changed. There were big yellow buttons, and I thought, oh, I can't cope. Quick tactical breath just allows me to think clearer. And then what happens is you then end up being more productive because you can focus better. Yeah, it helps calm you down, helps enable you to really zoom in and understand what's going on in your brain, and you can think about it a little bit more logically. So there's the 5th skill. Yeah, use the tactical breath skill to switch off your stress response and remain focused, productive, and calm. Yeah, and it's a great skill. With all of these skills that we'll be going through, I use tactical breath before any of them. It's my first port of call. And sometimes I just use it just on its own, especially if I'm waking up in night, but literally switches off that cortisol in your system. Okay, so we've looked at what happens when you stress, and this is really important because rumination is a huge contributor to us stressing and releasing cortisol. And we've looked at all the different areas. And when you're ruminating, that is when your brain is going away, and you can't really think clearly. Usually if your confidence is low, yeah, if you feel that you're not good enough, it's got all that negativity, that rumination going through. So we've looked at perhaps you ought to fast forward. Will this really matter in a week or a month or a year's time, to gain that perspective and to come back into real time? Yeah, we then looked at dropping the peanut. Can you just let it go? Yeah, don't be that monkey. There's loads of other things you've got to focus on. Just see if you can drop that one thing and move on to other things. And if you are catastrophizing, we've given you those 3 questions to get the perspective back. Yeah, and don't forget to blow it into out of proportion thinking. So there's nowhere for your brain to go. It's quite happy on the most likely, and then plan for it so you're back in control. And to take a tactical breath, yeah, just switch off that cortisol tap to be able to get the 40% of your brain back working. Now, the next skill is to help you move forward. Yeah, it's to help you move forward and to really focus in on what you can control. Because as soon as we are back in control as human beings, that's what we like. And it doesn't matter how small that bit of control is, but it's going to get you moving from just being in the rumination stage to moving you forward. So 3 C's is basically just about 3 circles. We've all got a massive big circle of concerns. These are all the things that you'll be ruminating on. These will all be the things that, you're sitting there going, oh, I should be better. It should be better. They should be doing this. Oh, I can't do this. I can't do it. Those are your concerns. So say to people, when you start to think about something you're ruminating about, you want to move forward with it, put all your concerns down. It doesn't have to be a big circle. You can just do it on a piece of paper, but put them all down. Doesn't matter how small they are. Put all the concerns down. Some people find this part really easy. They can write War and Peace on it and it goes on forever and ever and ever. They're really great at it. Other people find it a little more difficult. Don't worry about that. Just put all the concerns down, start listing them. Once you've got your circle of concern, you've got all these concerns laid out, what we'll then ask you to do is to transfer them, each one, over into your control. You'll take each one on the tie. We've got just generic ones up there. So your deadlines, money, weather, children, promotion, other people's actions, thoughts and behaviors, but you can get really specific into it. Yeah. Can't work the spreadsheet, don't want to speak up in the meeting, whatever it is, you put it down in there. Then you go individually, what can I control? So you take each one of those and you go, what can you control about the things there? Each individual one, I can control this. This is what I can do. If you can't control one thing in your thing of concerns, what am I going to tell you to do? Can I ask you to drop the peanut on it and focus in on all the things that you can control? Start writing all that control down. Now, so far, you've got two great lists. You've got a list of all concerns and you've got a list of things that you can control. That's not going to move you forward. It's the third circle that is the most important one. And we say to people, what are you going to commit to? What are you going to do now? What are you going to do today? Write it down, commit to it, and start doing it. Because as soon as you do, yeah, the rumination subsides. Because rumination is like a reminder. Your brain's just reminding you. It's going, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. It's like pulling on your bottom of your skirt or your trousers or your jacket. Yeah, it's like, I always say, it's like a toddler. Don't forget, oi, 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 the whole time. Yeah, but it doesn't realize it's not doing you any good. As soon as you go, these are the things I can control, and this is what I'm going to do, your brain goes, oh, they're dealing with it. I don't have to remind them, and it can disperse. So start looking at all different things that things that you're ruminating on, putting all the concerns down, writing what you can control, then things that you're going to commit to. If there's something in your commit that still seems really big, you can go back to the beginning and write all your concerns down about that. Then what you can control and then what you can commit. It's about getting it into bite-sized chunks that are doable for you, because as you commit and you achieve it, yeah, you release confidence, you release energy and will to keep moving forward. And as human beings, that's what we like. As soon as we get the slightest glimmer of control back again, we're back in the game. We're back in the game. If any of you are afterwards going to go on and look at the resources that we've got on our website, there's a quite an emotional blog. I don't often do very many blogs, but when I do, they tend to be quite good. But it's all on about the 3 C's, and you can have a look at that. On a time when I did not want the outcome to be the outcome, but I still grasped back a little bit of control and how it helped me get through it. So this is skill number 6. Yeah. Use the 3 C's to focus your energy on what you can influence or control and do something about it. It's about gaining that control and getting yourself moving forward rather than just sitting there in the rumination with the cortisol or perhaps catastrophizing and getting it out of proportion thinking. Yeah, start to commit to doing something, because at its core, the 3 C's is all about this. It's about being reactive versus being proactive. People that have a huge circle of concern, they push their control down really, really small. Yeah, so they don't feel they have control. They're just sort of like reacting to the world. They're like a ball in a pinball machine just being pushed around. You start to focus in on what you can control, and that will push the concerns out. Yeah, and as soon as you push them out, you become more proactive. And a proactive person will identify the things that they can control. They'll draw up a plan and they'll focus on that and move forward. Sometimes in management, they say it's the cornerstone of management, don't they? This essence of leadership. But what it really does is it helps reduce that rumination and that catastrophizing. It aids focus for you to be able to move forward. So you focus on things that help you move forward and not waste your energy and your time on the things that you can't. Yeah. Again, encouraging the confidence to keep moving forward. What happens to us in our brain when we start to ruminate or when things get activated from us? This is how our brain will start to process everything. And it's literally just how your brain works. So for your brain to start off on something, whether this is a situation that you've responded to badly, yeah, or this is something that you're thinking and you're doubting yourself, it's in there. The activating event starts your brain process off. And the activating event is sort of described as the who, the what, the where, and the when. That's what I would tell you to really focus in. Leave out why. Why is an emotion? Why is an opinion? Yeah. When you start to have something that you want to look in at how your brain is working and really zone into different areas of the process that I'm going to take you through, just look at the who, the what, the where, and the when. Who is it? What is happening? Where is it happening? When is it happening? Yeah. And then you zoom in on that, because that activating event, yeah, that thing that your brain is going through and processing, leads you to how you feel, your emotions, and your behavior. Now I'm going to ask you, and so I'm going to give you a quick little rundown on a scenario, because we're going to break it down even more. I was driving along the road. It was about 5 years ago. I should have dropped the peanut by now on it, but I haven't. And I was driving along. It was November time. It had been really sunny. Then all of a sudden it started to rain. And I always remember my dear old dad saying to me, when it's been sunny, then it rains. The road's slippery, Louise. So leave a really good stopping distance between you and the car in front. So that's what I was doing. I left a really good stopping distance between me and the car in front. When out of nowhere, absolutely nowhere, a very beautiful, I have to say, red Ferrari, yeah, driven by a man, I'm not being sexist, it was driven by a man, pulled in front of me. No indication, no warning. I had to slam my brakes on. I didn't crash the car, but the seatbelt went into my neck. Yeah. I would turn around and say to you guys, what do you think was going through my head at the moment? What was I saying to myself? Yeah. Lots of people come back. I can't see the chat function, and I'm sure that I would start laughing if I did. They'd be coming back with, what an idiot. What an absolute tit. Yeah. How dare he? How dare he? Oh my goodness, that was a near miss. He could have crashed. I could have lost my life. Got all these thoughts going through my brain, but mainly primarily I'd be like, someone driving a car like that thinks they're better than me, and they shouldn't be pulling in front of me, and why weren't they using their indicators, and what an idiot, what an absolute beep, 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 beep. That's probably, if I'm honest, that's what it was. That led me, that activate event of him pulling out, I then felt, yeah, I felt anxiety, I felt very anxious, and I felt anger, really angry. And then what we do, the behavior, my behavior followed. The first thing I did physically was I banged my hand on the horn. Then I did the international sign language for I'm not happy with you out the window. I think you got a few versions of that. So what I say to people is the activating event of him pulling out in front of me led me to feel anxious, yeah, to feel angry, and then behave quite aggressively. And I would say to you, do you agree with that? That it's he pulled out, that's how I felt. And majority of the time people go, yeah, that is exactly. Him pulling out made me feel, yeah, his actions made me feel anxious, made me feel angry, and I was physical with the hand on the horn and the hands out the window. What I say to people, and this is the real key, I think, to the whole of today's session for me, is the activating event very, very rarely, well, actually, it doesn't. It never, ever drives your feelings and your behavior. It's this. It's what you're saying to yourself. It's what you think in your head that make you feel and behave in a certain way. Because if I rewind the story and I go, exactly the same process, driving along the road, the red Ferrari pulls out in front of me. Yeah. The only difference this time is I've got one of my friends in the car with me. And just before I'm about to hit my hand on the horn, she goes, I know him. His son's just been taken to hospital. He's had a really bad accident. He must have missed the hospital turning just over there. What do I do now? Do I slam my hand on the horn? Do I think, what an idiot, what a beep, beep, beep? Yeah. Do I stick my fingers out the window? No. What's changed? The activating event hasn't changed. He's still pulled out in front of me. What I'm thinking about the situation is what's changed. And it's always that thought. Once I've got that thought, it then leads on to me how I would feel then. Oh, that poor man, I can't imagine how he's feeling. What do? I don't put my hand on the horn. Yeah, I just pull back a little bit. And you can do this with any situation. Any situation. It's about zoning in to what you're saying to yourself in your head, because there's that constant voice in there always, and it drives how we feel and how we behave. Think back to perhaps a situation where you felt your confidence has been undermined. Look at the activating event, then really think about what you were saying to yourself in your head. Yeah, because it'll be that will make you feel that way and behave in a certain way. And you need to break this down the whole time into the 3 stages, but really zone in to that B, because that is the real key in all of this. Often we go from A to C. We literally miss out that B. We go, they did that, so they made me feel and behave that way. I can tell you now, nobody can make you feel anything. Nobody can make you behave in a certain way. The only thing that can is what you're saying to yourself in your head. So ABC, you can start to use it as a reflective tool. Literally just write down who, what, where, and when. Yeah, get the facts. Know why, get the facts. Then what was I saying to myself in my head about that situation? Write it down. Yeah. How did that lead me to feel? What were my emotions? Yeah. How did I behave? So the next time it happens, you can start to challenge that B. Because not all people that drive really beautiful red Ferraris are idiots. Yeah, not all of them are just not putting indicators on. You can start to think and challenge that thinking for a better outcome. Because as I said, often we believe that it just goes A to C and we blame the activating event for the consequences instead of looking at what we are thinking and the role that the B plays in all of this. Eventually, after a little bit of practice with this skill, you can start to use it in real time. It doesn't mean that you always just drop it. Sometimes I go through ABC and I go, they're still getting a mouthful from me, but it's not a knee-jerk reaction. I've actually thought about it. So yeah, avoid jumping straight into the avoid jumping straight from the A to the C and really tune in and challenge your thinking for a better outcome. It's the 7th skill. It's use ABC to break situations down into those 3 key components and really zoom in on that B, because anybody that works with me will know that I will always say it's all in the B. There is a constant conversation going on in your head. There'll be one now, even as you're listening to me. And here's the thing, it's usually not a very nice one. If you spoke to others the way that you speak to yourself in your head, you most probably would have no friends left. Yeah, it undermines you the whole time. It's confrontational. Yeah, it leads you down the wrong path. Yeah, it just constantly just niggling away at you. It can stop you achieving your goals. Yeah, it can make you feel that it's all your fault, all that great stuff. Yes, tune in. And obviously the B, it's even more heightened when you're in rumination because you've got the stress, you've got the cortisol going through there, you've got all those things going. So tune into the B. That B drives your emotions and it drives your behavior. So just say to people, the 8th skill, tune into Me FM. It's going on the whole time. My dear husband always says to me, you can't read yourself unless you haven't without that voice in your head. It's there the whole time. Yeah, just tune into what you're saying and then challenge that thinking. Challenge it. And here's a few ways where you can start to challenge it, because all our experiences, all our things that have happened to us in the past, we store in our brain. And our brains will go very, very quickly sometimes, and they'll just pull the past experiences or our past thoughts or what we think about things down in like these little shortcuts of, oh, I know what's going on, or I'm going to go and do this, or this is happening again, or all that sort of thing. And we call them thinking traps. Well, not we do. They are called thinking traps. And there's six most common ones. You can see them on the screen. Jumping to conclusions, being certain about a situation with no supporting evidence. That's what that one is. Yeah, I'm terrible for that one. Mind reading. Yeah, assuming you know what other people are thinking or assuming that they know what you're thinking. Yeah, another one. Not very, very good for me. Yeah, but often you can definitely fall into that one. Me, believing you are the sole cause of this problem or of all problems. It's all my fault. If I hadn't been on the project, then it wouldn't have failed. Yeah, the reason that we didn't meet that deadline was because of me. Yeah, believing that you are the so-cause. Them is the opposite one. It's where you blame everybody else, yeah, and don't take responsibility. Then there's always or never. It always goes wrong. It's never goes right. It's unchangeable. That's just the way it is. Everything or nothing. That's when it starts eking to all areas of your life. And in fact, one of the blogs that I've got for you and your extra resources is about the 3 Ps, and that deals with everything or nothing and always or never. It looks at a lot at that sort of thinking. So it's a really good blog to read up on. But the 2 main thinking traps when you're dealing with low confidence, imposter syndrome, they're these 2: mind reading and me. And what you need to do is you'll need to zone in and really, really sort of consciously look. If you're mind reading, if you're assuming you know what another person is thinking or expecting another person to know what you're thinking, yeah, instantly you can see it happening. Yeah, perhaps your line manager turns around and goes, "Can I see you at the end of the day, please?" And then they keep looking over at you. Or you think they are. Yeah, and you go, "I know what this is about. I know it's going to be this. It's going to be really bad news. They're going to tell me that I haven't got a job. Oh my goodness, it's about this. Oh my goodness, about that." Yeah, you're mind reading. The opposite, the way you get yourself out of it, is you speak up. You go, "Did I express myself?" and ask for information. Sometimes we feel that we can't. Just ask. Yeah, ask for information. Me. If you're believing that you are the sole cause of every problem you encounter, yeah, think the opposite. Start challenge that thinking and go, look outward. Okay, I know how I contributed, but how did others contribute? How did others contribute to this? Because there's always more than one person. It's never going to be just you. If you feel that you have got the most of it to blame, that's okay, but just challenge it. Yeah, because those 2 will really, really undermine your confidence. So the skills to recognize that our thinking can be really biased. Yeah. So start to know that these thinking traps can exist. And as I said, this will all everything I've been through today is on the summary sheet. Yeah, start looking at what patterns you fall into, but especially start looking for these 2 because it links into rumination. You can hear it even when I was doing a mind reading one. Oh, I know what they're talking about. I know what this is happening. Oh my goodness, yeah, it's going to be this, it's going to be that, and it goes round and round and round your head. Then you'll release cortisol. Then your 40% of your decision-making part of your brain goes down. Yeah, your stomach doesn't feel good. Your legs go a bit funny. You can't think right. Yeah. Then you stop releasing oxytocin. So you can't trust or like people around you. So you start to get snappy. Yeah, you can start to see that it starts to have a knock-on effect with everything. But it's the 9th skill. The 9th skill is look for the thinking trap and challenge it by exploring the opposite perspective. Yeah, you really need to challenge. That B drives everything that we do. It encourages our rumination. Yeah, it does us with the catastrophizing. Yeah, it's the thought process that will wake us in the night or keep us awake. Yeah, it doesn't stops us from moving forward because we're just constantly looking at the concerns rather than control and commit to move forward. It's that B, everything is in the head. So really zone in, really sort of tune in to what you're saying to yourself, because we can be very, very nasty to ourselves. Yeah, all of these skills you can start to use. Don't even have to use the same words. You can start to ask others on. You can start to transfer them over to other people, or start to think about a common language. That's something that we do through our full program. We give people over 55 skills, but 55 different ways to have a common language that you can discuss things and move forward. But huge link. It's all to do with rumination. It's all to do with what you're saying to yourself in your brain, and we bring it on. We sort of tend to run away with it and not challenge it. So here we go. In summary, yeah, we've looked at rumination. Yeah, when you get thought and you play it over and over and over again in your head and you attach a negative emotion to it, in other words, it doesn't feel good to think about. Your worst time is at night, but you can get it all day. We all do it. It's a perfectly normal human response. Yeah, and we are all able, well, we all do ruminate. Some of us more than others, heightened even more when there's a lack of confidence and when with imposter syndrome. Yeah. Once you've acknowledged you've got it and you've recognized that you're ruminating, give it a name, and then turn around and go, this thing that I'm thinking about, can I fast forward it? That's the second skill. Will it matter in a week, a month, or a year's time? Or actually, will it matter in half an hour, or this afternoon? Just depends. But it brings you back in, gives you perspective, brings you in the moment. Yeah. If the answer is no, can you drop the peanut? Can you stop being a monkey about it? Let that peanut go. There's loads of other things you need to get on with. Can you just drop it? My dear old mum used to say it's a bit like picking your battles. Exactly that. Can you drop that peanut and move forward? Yeah, sometimes we catastrophize around this. We get that rumination and we blow it up and we keep going. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And to the end, we're like, I can't do this because this is going to happen and that's going to happen. Challenge it with those 3 great questions. What's the worst? Keep going. And then what? And then what? And then what? Blow it into out of proportion thinking until there's nowhere else for your brain to go. Yeah. And then I die. Then go back to the best. Keep going until it's happily ever after. Then allow your brain, it will settle on the most likely and plan and move yourself forward with that. Don't forget tactical breath switches off the cortisol. Yeah, when we're in fight or flight with that cortisol going in our body, and it's heightened even more so, yeah, when we start to look at menopause and we look at all different things like that. But tactical breath in the nose for count of 4, feel your stomach rise, hold for 7, out through your mouth for the count of 8. Do it a couple of times, switch off the cortisol, allow yourself to focus and come back in. You will remain more focused and calm, yeah, and productive at the end of the day. 3 C's will help you move forward. Look at all those concerns, get them written down. Each and individual one. What can I control about that? If I can't, I'm going to ask you to drop the peanut and let it go. Focus on what you can control and then write what you're going to commit to right now and go and do it. As soon as you do it, that rumination comes down, you feel back in control. ABC is how your brain works. Yeah, it's 3 key components. There's the activating event. Yeah, your brain has to be activated before it'll do anything, whether it's with a thought or with a situation. Yeah. Often we go from A to C, and what we don't do is we don't look at the B. What are we telling ourselves in our heads about this situation? Because that will drive your emotions and it will drive your physical responses as well. So it drives your behaviors. And just remember, it's all in the B. It's all what we are telling ourselves in our heads. So we need to challenge it because it's not a nice voice quite often. It's not a nice voice. And then the biggest thing that will lead us to sometimes with all of this, the thinking and the B, are our thinking traps. Those shortcuts that our brains take from past experiences, from things we've heard, things we've stored up in our brain, and it gets habit forming. We just go up and we pull those responses down the whole time. Oh, it's all my fault. It's always my fault. Yeah. Or yeah, I know what they're talking about. I know what it is. Yeah. Just need to challenge that, nip yourself out of it as well. So I'm going to ask you for ever so quickly just to type in what's been the most valuable insight for you today from that list. And then I'm going to quickly just wrap it up with what your next steps are. And then I'm going to hand back over to Hannah very, very quickly. So I'm going to, hopefully you're better than me at doing 2 things at once. So type away what's been your most interesting thing or the most valuable thing from today. While I just talk about your next steps. What we say to people is practice the skills. They are skills. You've got 9 of them. Yeah, they interlock. They are absolutely brilliant. As I said, our full program does a lot more. But practice the skills. Share them. Share them with other people. They're really easily transferable. You can just talk about them, just like not with the big words or anything else. Just talk through them. And as I said, there's more resources on their way to you. This is what the link that you're going to be given. You'll be sent through to this page. Yeah, where you'll have a download of all the summaries from today. You'll have all the skills, each and every one that I've gone through. You'll also have 2 blogs, subscribe to our newsletter if you want to, and how we can support your teams as well. So on that note, I'm going to say thank you very much for your time. I'm going to stop sharing. I know it's gone fast. I know that I've gone at you. But hopefully that you've got lots from it. I don't know if I can click onto the chat now. I've stopped sharing, so hopefully Hannah's back somewhere.
I'm here.
Oh, you're there. I've got lots and lots of things in the chat. There's Q&As. Let's have a quick look, because I think I've got 1 minute. I can't see the Q&As. That have to be from you, Hannah.
I'm not sure. I can't see any questions in the Q&A, so I'm not sure we have any questions in particular, but there are some lots and lots of comments in the chat about how fantastic that today's session has been. I've got a
Oh,
lot
thank
from
goodness
it,
for
and I
that. I
think
could stop thinking that I've got no confidence. It's really difficult because when you can't see anybody's face, you don't know if you're just rabbiting or if actually anybody's there.
yeah, absolutely.
Lots and lots of responses. Thank you very much. I have brought it in just bang on time. Hannah, it's over to you.
Thank you, Louise. So just quickly, I thought we'd just take you through a couple of upcoming events at Wise very, very quickly, because I know we are just over time now. But we have lots in the pipeline for the year. So there's just a few that we wanted to highlight over the next few months. So we've got an exclusive lunch and learn with our new MD, Laura Norton, who's going to be doing a bit of a Q&A session with our members on the 25th of April. We've got a session on reverse mentoring and about the transformational power of diverse perspectives. And then in June, we've also got another webinar on unleashing the business potential of flexible working. So if any of those events are of interest to you, please do have a look on our website and register. I'm sure Hannah will put the link to the events calendar in the chat as well. And then last but not least, if you do have any feedback on today's session, we'd love to hear it. And I'm sure Louise would love to have some positive feedback from how fantastic the session has been today, because it has. So if you would be happy to answer our feedback survey, please. It should just take you a couple of minutes, but we'll really appreciate any response that you can get. And I think Hannah will pop the link to the survey in the chat as well, or you can scan the QR code on the screen, and we'll also pop you a follow-up email with a link in as well if you'd be happy to do that. So the last thing just to say is a huge thank you to Louise for delivering today's session. It's been absolutely brilliant. I know I've got a lot of takeaway from today's session. So it's been really beneficial, and thank you all for coming along. We hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've got that out of it. And otherwise, have a wonderful rest of your day, and we hope to see you all at another Wise event very soon.
And don't forget to keep dropping those peanuts. Imagine there's a little elephant walking behind you. That's what I do. I have to feed my elephant and drop all my peanuts.